This one is a banger. And about time. We've been to land and back to land and back by now. So what exciting events has Donaldson come up with in his last book of this trilogy, you reckon? Where do I even start? First, he tries to find Troy and gets nothing, talks to his therapist about the land, gets not much more, and he even goes to church and gets banished. All this makes him have a meltdown, trash his place and run to the woods. While there, he spots a little girl and a snake somehow, so he dashes to save her and falls over because of course he does. He hits his head, but while getting dragged back to the land for some Revelstone invasion, he actually rejects his summoning, saying he needs to save this girl from a snake. It for some reason works, but he was too late and the snake got to bite her, so naturally Thomas starts sucking the venom out. After that, he carries her out to her nearby parents, gets spat on for being a leper, and passes out from the hit to the head earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you really think we weren't going to the land so soon? Maybe have some answers to Covenant's real problems? Well, too bad. He is however not summoned to the Revelstone by Moram, but to Kevin's watch by Triarch, the same place he arrived at the very first time, and the very same guy who was supposed to marry Lena from that small village all those years ago. She is still there, by the way, being all old and senile, and joins the party because now she loves him? Triarch is totally over it though, and even nurses Thomas back to health, because he immediately caught a cold in the snow. With the help of none other than Giga Chad Bowformer, they then decide to put Lord Fowl down for good, despite Thomas still not knowing how to use the ring. Thomas then sends Triarch to find a guru who can call Moram with a magic walkie-talkie stick to tell him about their great plan of winging it. They part ways, Thomas naturally being carried like a baby, and Triarch was never seen again. They travel through the plains of Ra, and Thomas keeps cringing at Lena's flirting all the way there. Thomas fails a night shift, and they get captured by the Ramen because they think all the giants are either dead or taken over by the Raver. But as giants are highly tolerant to fire, Foam Follower then does the classic self-immolation torture until they believe that he is good and gets his way. They however are attacked by some goblins and have to run away without getting to restock, and Foam Follower stays behind to hold them off. Look, I know they are not goblins, but just makes it easier. Still though, Thomas manages to get caught in a fight, gets Lena killed, hurts his leg, and is left wandering the snow plains alone. He almost starves to death and starts eating grass only to find out it was poisonous and goes into a coma within a coma. But that doesn't change him much. He gets healed by a bystander using some damage transferring ritual. And once Thomas wakes up, he sees the healer had to sacrifice herself, and he goes on to just loot the place and leaves the dead woman alarm clock there to rot. Nice. He then runs into Triarch again. Turns out while Thomas was unconscious, Triarch got taken over by a Raver and drugs Covenant. He wakes up near a cliff with all his other friends being subjugated under the will of Elena. She was brought back now that the law of death is broken. She still has the Staff of Law, and now she has the ring too to finally start casting some epic spells. While doing so though, her mind control becomes weaker just enough for Triarch to slap the ring off her to Thomas, who somehow doesn't fumble it, but Triarch gets killed on the spot. She tries to kill Thomas next, but he manages to use the ring for the second time ever, sending the damage right back at her, also destroying the staff for real this time. His punish was so frame perfect that it distracts this other Raver besieging Revelstone, who was just standing there menacingly, for a second and gets killed by Moran. No, really, the Raver Giant was just standing there and trying to play time while the Revelstone starved. It was a whole thing. The others are freed from the spell also, and Thomas continues his quest with Foam Follower, still unaware how to use the ring. And they start scaling down to the lower lands, and Covenant almost immediately falls, but the giant is there to carry him all the way through. The journey doesn't go so smoothly though. They get chased by all kinds of weird animals, Urwiles and wildfire, so they choose to jump in quicksand, and somehow they are surprised when they get pulled under. Luckily, it was just some Fowl's failed experimental ass-pull creatures that just saved them, and they get ever closer undetected. Once there, the hideout is surrounded by a lava moat, so the only way to cross it is to use Foam Follower's fire resistance to carry Thomas over. The giant can still feel pain from the heat though, and before submerging completely, he tosses Thomas the rest of the way and sinks in. And when he doesn't resurface, Thomas just leaves and goes to sleep. After waking up, he approaches the gates that lead to Fowl's castle, thinking how to get past the guards. Then, Foam Follower returns, all clothes burned up, but to the surprise of both, alive and uninjured. He beats up the guards and they start searching for the throne room while getting chased by Urwiles. When they arrive, Foam Follower gets pinned down and congratulated for bringing Thomas to Fowl. This was all according to his plan. Lena, Elena, the word of power, all of it. And with the ring he can rule the universe. All Thomas needs to do to end all his suffering is to give the ring. Give. Why doesn't Fowl just take it? Thomas notices that Fowl is actually being cautious because he thinks Thomas can now use the ring's power and is trying to lure him to a false sense of security so Thomas can defeat him easily. Some solid anime logic here. He kinda uses this to his advantage and straight up tells Fowl that he can't use the ring, but he does know how to trigger it after getting hit by Elena, and punches the emerald to taunt Fowl into his counter. This indeed triggers Fowl because Covenant didn't just give up on the Dreamland and chooses to torment not only himself but also everyone around him. All those years of being a leper made Thomas's skin so thick he doesn't feel any emotional pain anymore, ultimately winning him the fight. What's worse, Thomas decides not to destroy the Despiser because he knows he would just come back stronger. Kinda like in real world if you try and suppress your feelings. Instead, all of the ghosts of his dead friends start laughing at Fowl, and he just kinda cringes himself out of existence. I wish I could do that. Now victorious, Thomas then destroys the Master Emerald so no evil can use it as a tool anymore, and accidentally blasts so hard everyone in the castle dies, or something like that. He gets to have a little chat with God, and the general gist of it is that Thomas was chosen because his depression was perfect training against this power like Fowl, the Despiser. God truly does give the toughest battles to the funniest clowns. Thomas also gets a second chance at life thanks to all this, and wakes up in the hospital again. Donaldson has done it again. We got the same freaking start and end for the third time in a row. Expected nothing less. Amazing writing. 10 out of 10. This was only the first trilogy, and the second one is full of such peak Thomas moments. And after the main bad guy is now defeated, what could possibly happen next?